Hello and welcome. My name is John Valentine, and in this video I'll be breaking down top 10 marketing trends that you need in order to prepare for 2022. So this year is slowly coming to an end. We're wrapping up 2021 and going into 2022, and as always there will always be new things in marketing alive and well coming into this new year. So I'll be talking about 10 major things and breaking them down, and of course looking at the screen here, these are the topics I'll be talking about. So first I'm going to be talking about investing in online events, owning your audience, investing in your brand image, talking about education, content quality, personalization, B2B content, becoming a better storyteller, marketing automation, and lastly thinking outside the box. So if you want to know more about them, sit back and take in all this information, or you can skip around on the right. But other than that, thank you so much for joining me today, and let's not waste any more time and jump right into this first topic here. So let's first of all talk about investing in online events. Well, as we all obviously know, there has been a major shift in the industry, market, economics, everything, thanks to the worldwide pandemic. And as always, people will be more online than ever. So investing in online events is important, not just during this pandemic, even if it's still around for the coming months and however long. Habits from the pandemic are going to stay, even if we fully get rid of it, whatever your opinion is on that. But even if we fully get rid of this pandemic and everything, habits from it are going to stay. Webinars, seminars, product launches, a lot of these will stay online and actually be more accepted. First of all, because people are more used to it now. I firmly believe that a lot of small meetings that people might meet up in person for are just gonna do it over Zoom real quick in 10 minutes or something like that, because it saves time, it saves effort, it saves money, and a lot more people are more open to doing that. Before the pandemic, if you said instead of meeting at this coffee place for 20 minutes, let's just have a quick Skype call, let's just have a quick Zoom call. Well, it's not that wasn't as common as it is now. Now, if you tell somebody, let's just have a quick Zoom call, nobody's going to look at you funny anymore and say, what's Zoom? So I think a lot of these habits are going to stay. First of all, because of that, but also second of all, I think it also opens the gate to more attendees, especially if you are having something like a webinar or product launch, and if you had it in person before, well, only local people could come there. But if you have it online, there would be a lot more attendees and people who would want to come, and it also helps you just gather more data of the people that come, people signing up with emails and stuff like that. So everything being online can definitely help, and it can definitely help you in the long term with growth, and also because it also costs less. So looking at the bottom line, it costs less for you and the consumer. You don't have to rent venues, you don't have to do certain things. You can just have an online event, and people don't really have to pay gas money to drive there. They don't have to do whatever to get there. They don't have to waste that time, and with commute and everything, they just click in and everything. And sometimes maybe even people wouldn't have hosted events in person, but they will host an event for a product launch because they can do it online and it's easier. If you have a new course coming out, you wouldn't maybe necessarily have an event in person, but now you can have an online event. You can have a Q&A session, you can have a Zoom call, a webinar, a live reading of your new book, whatever it is. You can have all kinds of online events, and first of all, being more ready and more prone to doing this is definitely a great way. So investing in all kinds of online events is definitely something you want to consider considering your marketing strategy. So next, let's talk about owning your audience, and I've addressed this in a couple of past videos, but owning your audience is definitely important Basically, what does owning an audience mean? Well, it means that you are responsible for their information. You need to get them off social media, and you need to get them in your newsletter, in your mail list, on your website. You need to get them as a subscriber to whatever services that you're doing, where you're not at the mercy at somebody else. You're not at the mercy of Instagram or at the mercy of TikTok. If you have a newsletter and you have their email addresses, of course, all collected in a certain way, then you are owning that information, you're owning the audience, and you have way more control of that. Maybe if you're on Instagram and you have 1 million followers or something like that, and the algorithm changes and it completely messes up your feed, well, then you're always at the mercy of that other platform, whatever it is. We've seen on YouTube a lot of people lose revenue from getting demonetized. The adpocalypse in the past couple of years. People getting banned or shadow banned on certain platforms. Whatever it is, you are always at the mercy. So if you own your audience, you are not at the mercy anymore, and you have control of that audience. So this is definitely a great way to connect with your customers and your audience in a way. And you definitely, of course, want to offer them something. If you have a newsletter, you can offer them a free PDF download of a book or whatever it is that you're doing. I do have a course on that, talking about gaining people on your newsletter, but it definitely helps you to be less vulnerable to algorithm and all kinds of changes. It can help also provide your audience and your loyal customers with exclusive content. If you have a Patreon, for example, also a great way to own your audience. Of course, it is on another platform, but getting them off one platform is the key here. You definitely want to form a bond and a connection somehow, and offer them something in order to connect with you on a different level. So again, having a newsletter or mail list or a website where people can sign up and be your member. You definitely want to own your audience in some kind of way by offering them exclusive content or exclusive access in any way. So definitely something to brainstorm about and figure out on how you can offer them something in order for them to connect with you on your own platform and your own website and so on. So yeah. So let's next talk about investing in your brand image and reach. Nowadays, as we all know, the image is everything, especially nowadays with social media and everything. People are more and more concerned with how the company looks and what they stand for and their values. And so you definitely want to consider, investing a little bit more in communicating your message, your values as a company and as a brand, in order to let people know where you stand. Of course, sometimes this can get political, but you definitely want to do it appropriately, and you definitely want to, however, consider that, because the newest generation, millennial, Gen Z, and everything like that, they're way more concerned if a company is, for example, sustainable or if it's not. So investing more in your brand image in that aspect is definitely key in getting a better reach and having more brand awareness. Digital marketing will become more expensive in another way, so you could try other traditional marketing. You definitely want to consider using those as well to invest in your brand image and reach. You can have, of course, organic growth as well using content such as podcasts, videos, etc. So try to expand your investments on that areas as well in order to invest in your overall reach and your overall engagement. A great strategy to use is also to educate and not sell. What I mean by that is you want to educate your customers on why they need you, why they need your product. So of course this is also part of a sales strategy, but instead of directly selling, creating more educational content, especially on your social media, is a great way to drive engagement and drive sales. So an example would be if you are a drink company, if you create energy drinks, or if you create any kind of alcoholic drinks or whatever, a great way to educate would be to create recipes for your drinks, to create recipes for other drinks. If you are a clothing company, instead of just showing off pictures of your products, what you could do is you can create educational company such as how to style a black t-shirt, how to style a belt, how to style this handbag, how to style white shoes with a purple t-shirt, whatever it is. So basically creating educational content will definitely definitely help you drive more engagement because it is content, copywriting, social media, viral videos, whatever. You definitely want to create that relationship with your customer. Just think about some of the other brands. For example, if you have an Apple Genius Bar, if you go into an Apple store, they have a Genius Bar to help you understand their products, and that is a revolutionary idea that they had because it educates the consumer on how to use their products to the full extent. You can create Clubhouse chat rooms to educate that. You can create content. You can use any kind of media in order to portray that, and it definitely helps you build a relationship with your customer, especially on Instagram. If you create a certain guide, one of the main statistics and analytics that are important nowadays on Instagram is the save and the share function. So if somebody, if you create a great post on Instagram on how to style a certain t-shirt or how to create a drink recipe, people are going to save that, and that will push your content in the algorithm as well, and people will share it around, and then they will follow you and so on. So creating shareable and savable content is key in creating that viral content that will in turn help you drive sales, brand awareness, and everything. So definitely something to keep in mind. Next, let's talk about the content quality. As always, quality is increasing in all sorts of angles. People see thousands of pieces of content each day, so try to make sure that you stand out, especially if you have a company and brands. Nowadays, people are using simple iPhones and smartphones to create amazing quality content, and I don't just mean like the HD quality content, but just in general, focusing on the quality of your content is important. You want to be unique. You want to have twists on the regular content that people nowadays have, whatever, even if it's just blog posts and articles. You don't always have to post every day if you can't afford it to have quality and consistency, but quality can sometimes often be way more important than just spamming content. So definitely you want to focus on the quality, just because people are getting bombarded with so much content nowadays. If it's not up to a certain standard, sometimes that could immediately disqualify you as a brand that they would consider in whatever capacity that they are using that in. So focusing on the quality of your content is going to be key in standing out in the coming years, because it's almost going to be expected and natural for you to have a certain quality, and if you don't have it, you're going to be left behind. So focusing on the quality of all kinds of content is definitely key. So next, let's talk about personalization, and by that I mean humanizing your brand. So you want to have your brand be humanized by basically relating to your customer more, and also having personalized messages for each platform. So you want to adjust your content specific to different platforms that you have. And sometimes you need to consider that different platforms, even if it's from your same brand and your same company, have different audiences. People follow you on Instagram that don't follow you on Twitter, that follow you on YouTube, but they don't follow you on LinkedIn, and whatever it is. So you definitely want to reconsider and strategize your, implement your content strategy differently according to these platforms. And you want to know how to approach each audience in each platform differently, and you want to personalize your content accordingly. So you definitely want to have that personalized content in addition to humanizing your brand by engaging with them personally, whether it is using Instagram DMs to connect with your customers or people, or you can use live streams, Q&As, stuff like that. Creating personalized content and a more personal connection is definitely going to be key in creating that sale, creating that bond to your customer. And for example, if you go to TikTok and some of the brands, people are posting content on TikTok that they would never post anywhere else. So a great example would be Ryanair, for example, or if you go to Lionsgate. If you just go to those accounts on TikTok, you will be shocked at some of the content that you will see that they would never post on Instagram or Twitter, because they know what the TikTok audience likes. They know that the TikTok audience is way different than the audience on Twitter or the audience on YouTube, and because different pieces of content do well on these different platforms. So personalizing and adjusting accordingly is going to do very well for them. Again, if you look at those two brands, and these are great examples, Ryanair and Lionsgate, if you go on TikTok, and you will see some of the content that they will do, and they're a great example of how to personalize that content to specific platforms that don't really work anywhere else. So you definitely want to consider that when implementing your content strategy. So another great strategy that is going to be very important is B2B content or business to business content. So primarily using LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a huge platform and it's becoming bigger and bigger every day. And I think still nowadays people underestimate the power of LinkedIn and the natural and organic reach that it actually has. So using LinkedIn to create content, not just for consumer businesses, but also for business to business businesses. So B2B businesses and their employees, using social media and blogs in order to, create a sort of behind the scenes insight into the industry, into the operations, just content in general. And even for B2B businesses, creating content is more important than ever. Just using social media platforms can also be very beneficial to get that business, get customers, get clients, and creating content on a B2B basis is going to be very, very important. So if you do have that kind of business, you definitely want to consider optimizing a strategy for all social media platforms, especially for B2B platforms like LinkedIn, which is probably the most important one for that kind of stuff. So one of the most important skills that you should definitely try to work on, especially if you're, if you're in charge of the marketing and that kind of stuff, you want to become a better storyteller. You want to compose your story and tell it nicely. And by that I mean become a better storyteller. Don't make stuff up, but I just mean present your story better, especially if it's not a crazy story, such as you did this to do this in order to start your businesses, and you try to help whatever these people. But if you just quote unquote a normal person starting a business, even then you have a certain story to tell, and you want to compose your story nicely and give it as much detail as possible, and just try to tell a compelling story and then tell that story on social media and through your marketing channels. So people care. Just don't underestimate that people actually care. And again, this contributes to this idea of humanizing your brand. Because as I said, Gen Z, millennials, all the new generations want to see less of a corporate structure and just a corporate image, but rather the people behind it, the values behind it, what they stand for, what they believe in, and telling that story is part of it. Especially, if you have a brand for consumers and stuff like that, people want to know the story behind that. So becoming a talented storyteller is very, very important. And you definitely want to try to be able to tell your story in a good way. So, don't just brag about your products, but explain what problem it solves and how it came about, how you were able to come up with the product, and even just going on about other marketing things, such as what your product can actually do. So not just telling your own story, but telling a story of that product. How can that product solve a specific problem? It can cut your mail time in half if you have email software. It helped 80% of customers save $10 or more if you have a some kind of product that helps people save money and stuff like a honey plugin and stuff like that. So just being able to tell that story of what it does, what your product does, who you are, and so on, just becoming that better storyteller is going to be very, very important, and a good skill for you to have. Another trend that you want to focus on is marketing automation, and it means becoming more efficient. So building your customer profiles and expanding upon it. So automating your marketing, especially when it comes to your target audience. Once you have that target audience and you have your people that you want to market to, you can use automation in order to optimize it, streamline it, make it faster, make it cheaper, and really just optimize it in order to drive your sales. Customers are becoming smarter, so that way, in that turn, you also have to learn more about your customer. You can't just say, oh, maybe they like this, but you have to, take in mind their likes, their shares, their opinions, and so on. And of course, with all this technology, this makes it way easier, but using automation will also make it faster, will make it more streamlined, and again, will also just make it easier in general to appeal to the right customer and appeal to the customer that you have. So using all kinds of paid ad channels, whatever, Facebook ads, and Google Analytics, and so on, and then using AI or other marketing software and automation in order to streamline that process and make everything a little bit easier. And one of the most important things you definitely need to consider is to think outside the box, especially when it comes to digital marketing. I mean, only a decade ago, not every company had a website. A few years ago, people still didn't have Instagram or Facebook pages. Nowadays, there's still companies that don't have TikToks. But, as time goes on, every company is eventually going to catch up, meaning that while new things develop, you need to stay on top of it, but also you need to become sort of unique in the platforms that are thriving. Nowadays, if you don't have a website as a business, that's just an automatic no. If you don't have an Instagram or a social media presence, that just is a bad thing for a lot of companies. So nowadays, things like that are expected, but that also means that there's a lot more competition on these platforms. If 20 years ago you had a website, or 15 years ago you had a website, and if 5 years ago you had an Instagram, sometimes be like, whoa, look at these guys, they have a website, they have a social media presence like this. It makes you stand out, but nowadays it's expected. So if you don't have it, it just looks bad, and also it means it's flooded, it's saturated. Everybody has an Instagram page. So you need to think outside the box and think how you can appeal to people, even though knowing that everybody else is on the same level. Everybody has an Instagram, everybody has the social media stuff. So how can you stand out with your content? How can you stand out in these platforms? And how can you stand out in other things? How can you stand out outside of social media platforms? Maybe all of a sudden, newspaper ads become super cheap, and what you do is you have a huge marketing campaign on newsletters, real paper newspapers, and that somehow pays off. This is just a random example, but you have to keep trying new things and always keep exploring. Some things may work, others may work better. If you can afford it, try it out, of course, if it's within the budget that you have, but sometimes this is the time for unconventional success. There's so much competition, and the market on every platform is so saturated at this point. You do have to, do the things that work: Facebook ads, Instagram ads, whatever it is, Google ads, analytics, and so on. They work, they're good, but sometimes thinking of something unique is what's going to set you apart. Just think of some of the unique marketing initiatives in the past few years, and of course they may have also done Instagram ads, they may have done their social media ads and everything like that, but then they think of something that catapulted them into the front of the line. So this is the time for those unconventional ideas, and sometimes trying them can really pay off. So thinking outside the box is definitely useful when it comes to a market with this much competition. But yeah, that's basically going to be it for this course when it comes to the top 10 marketing trends that you should look out for and prepare for in 2022 by coming towards the end of this year here. And just to summarize and sort of reiterate some of the ideas, you want to invest in your online events. The habits that formed during the pandemic are here to stay. You want to own your audience. You want to get them off certain platforms so you're not at the mercy of Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, whatever platforms that you're mostly using. You want to invest in your brand image. Make sure to reflect your values and so on. You want to educate people. You don't just want to show off your products. You don't just want to show off posts. You want to have people engage, save, share your content, and be informed by what your product does. You want to have content quality, not just on the actual HD picture quality and stuff like that, but also on the actual quality of your posts, like the quality of your writing. You need to stand out in a world that is full of content, and you need to have solid content in that world. Personalization, you want to personalize your different content for the different platforms, and you want to humanize your brand. B2B content, you want to focus on content. If you are a B2B business on LinkedIn and so on, you want to focus on that content as well. You want to become a better storyteller, be able to tell the story that you have. Whatever story that you have, you can tell it in a good way, so make sure to become a talented storyteller in that way. And storyteller of your products. Work on marketing automation. Automating some of the processes will streamline the process and will help you save money, save time, and in effect just help the bottom line. And of course, lastly, thinking outside the box. In a saturated market like this with so much competition, thinking outside the box is definitely key in standing out and getting those extra viral hits and so on. So definitely always think outside the box when it comes to this kind of stuff. But yeah, that's basically going to be it. Thank you so much for joining me today. I do have some great news. I am releasing a newsletter every week called Valentine Weekly, where I talk about digital marketing, social media tips and tricks, breaking news, and so on. So definitely sign up for that. The link will be in my profile, and you can go to tinyurl.com/weeklyval. So sign up for that if you're interested in that. But thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to see you next time, and goodbye.